makeup friends, and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and I thought for this week I would film my eye look every day that I'm preparing for work. So I'm scheduled in the office 4 days this week, so 4 different eye looks. Now, when I was thinking about this idea, I was wondering whether I was going to just pick one palette and just feature one palette, or basically just film my actual eye makeup look. So when I come down in the morning, I don't necessarily always have one palette. I mean, last year I did because I had a Project Pan palette, but I typically just allow myself free reign. Whatever palette I want to use, that's what I'm going to use. So I thought that would be possibly a little bit more interesting, because otherwise I could just do like a 5 looks, 1 palette kind of video. But I thought that this might help people who also work in an office setting to see how I incorporate makeup into my everyday life. Sometimes I'm colorful, sometimes I'm not. So we'll just sort of see how the spirit moves us. My base is already applied. I'm using my Project Pan items for that. I haven't applied blush yet, but I will do that after the eyes. And I figured I would show you which blush I use as well. So let's just get going on this. It's not going to be a review style thing. It's really just what I wear to work in terms of eye makeup at any rate. So I am going to zoom it in a little bit, and we'll do it by way of a voiceover just so that it doesn't take forever for me to apply this stuff every morning. All right, here we go. Let's see where this gets us. All right, so for today, I'm going to use the most recent palette that I picked up. This is the Pumpkin Spice Second Slice from Too Faced. It's a very warm toned palette. It was on sale for 50% off at Shoppers Drug Mart. I was cashing in some points, so I didn't actually pay any money out of pocket for this. I realize that I pay to buy stuff to earn the points. Sometimes people clarify that for me, and I'm like, I'm fully aware, I get it, but actual money didn't come out of pocket to pick this up. At any rate, I've only worn it once so far, so I want to use it today. I'm fairly casual today. I've just got a sweater and some jeans on. I don't have any client meetings or anything like that scheduled for today. I do potentially have one quick Zoom meeting, and then I have some meetings with my new partner. Exciting things happening in my office, but that's not the point of this video. So I can go kind of low key, but I still want to look polished. Also, this is real life, so it is, again, it's 10, 11 after 8 at this point. I can hear my son coming down the stairs. He will likely come in at some point. It is what it is. Okay, eye makeup time. Let's go. Sorry, one more thing before we get started. Kaleidos recently sent me over their Tone Activator Eye Primer, so that's what I'm going to use this week just to test it out. So there we go. Okay, so here are my thoughts on this primer. I really like it. As you can see, I applied way too much, but it did blend out really nicely. I just really wish that the packaging had a doe foot rather than it being a squeeze tube, because I think it would be a lot more easy to manage. But it does dry down almost like a powder kind of finish, so things blend really easily on top of it. But if you're looking for a stickier base, I would look elsewhere, because this one does dry down so dry. Anyways, moving on, for the purpose of this video, I have not sped up the footage. I will only show the application on one eye, but I haven't really cut anything out, particularly with this first day. So when I go in and do additional blending, I've included it for this day's worth of makeup, but going forward I haven't, just for the sake of time and because it is pretty redundant. But the mattes in this shadow, the Too Faced eyeshadow palette, they blend really nicely, and you can see that they have very good pigmentation. Now when I did this video, or did this makeup for the video, obviously you can see me applying it, but I didn't take pictures of it at the end of the day, but I did take notes of it because I've also been testing out a different concealer every day, and I'm going to continue doing that until I have tested all of my concealers. So I've been taking notes of how the shadows perform, and this palette, the mattes apply beautifully, but somehow during the day they all kind of melded together. So they didn't disappear over the day, but the colors all kind of got a little bit muddied together throughout the course of the day, and the shimmer shadow that you'll see me apply momentarily, it did not hold up at all throughout the day.
The color, like the pigmentation, lasted on the lid, but the sparkle of it was gone. So I would recommend using a stickier base or even a glitter glue. You'll see that I used setting spray to apply it, and that still wasn't enough to make it last throughout the day. Also, completely off topic, but if you hear some gentleman sounding like he's being slowly murdered, my husband is playing God of War just upstairs and it's very loud. So I'm really hoping that the mic doesn't pick it up, but I have not had the best luck with audio, so who knows? Anyways, if that's what you hear, that's what it is. Okay, for this day, this is my first day back to work after Christmas holidays. I did not have any appointments scheduled, although I did have a potential like quick Zoom meeting that I thought I might have to do. Ultimately, I didn't have to do that, but another client actually emailed me in the morning trying to get in for an afternoon appointment. So it turned out well that I had spent some time making myself look presentable because I did bring her in to meet with her. I kind of play to the audience, right? Like I get to know my clients. Some of them I know are going to appreciate, or at least, I don't know, not be offended by colorful makeup. I mean, honestly, if you're getting offended by colorful makeup, like maybe reassess. But regardless, I kind of play to my audience. You'll see that on another day's worth of makeup. But for this one, I knew that like I wasn't really seeing anybody. I didn't have to be super professional. I could go a little bit brighter and not have to worry about people clutching pearls or anything like that. So I always take that into consideration when I'm deciding what I want to wear for makeup. I do often go a little bit more on the neutral route, and I also kind of do the same application process. I was cognizant of that during this video, so I did try to shake it up a little bit, but I definitely have a comfort zone, and I know what works for my eye shape and for my hooded eyes and things of that sort. So when I'm going to work, it's not the time for me to be doing a cut crease and getting super creative with my placement. I tend to fall into what I know will work without having to really think about it. You will see there is another day where I kind of branched out from my comfort zone. I'll talk about that when we get to it, but you might notice that some of the placements are pretty redundant from day to day. Anyways, I love this blush from Benefit. It did last really well throughout the day, and you could still see that pigmentation on my cheeks at the end of it. And then I'm just going in with the Tower 28 gloss that I have in my Project Pan. This is in the shade Cashew. It really doesn't last all that long. The upside for the Project Pan is that I am blazing through what little left I have of this product, but that just means I have to top it up. But as you can see, it's pretty sheer. It's a My Lips But Better kind of look, and it's really easy to top this gloss up on the fly. So that was day one makeup. So here's where I'm going to ask for some input from you guys. In terms of cutting between day one and day two, etc., do you want to see like actual transitions between each step that I'm doing in the makeup? Do you want to see transitions with that as well? FYI, giant pain in the butt on my end to do it in editing, but really not impossible. It would just mean that between every single clip I'd have to insert a transition, but I can do that if it makes the viewing experience better for you guys, so let me know. Anyways, on to day two, and I am using the Kaleidos Quad in Flowing Haze. And this one I wanted to do because it's a little bit more on the cool toned side, and I thought that it would go well with the black sweater that I'm wearing. I did have a Zoom meeting scheduled for this day, but just with one of our software vendors. We're changing over our software at the office that we use for all of our docketing and accounting and all that kind of stuff, and it's a little bit of a nightmare, not going to lie, but the new vendor that we're dealing with has been lovely. So all that to say, I wanted to look professional, but I wasn't overly concerned if I used a bit of color in my look or anything of that sort. So again, I have applied the Kaleidos primer. I've done that for every day in this video, and just going in with that quad, trying to keep it a little bit toned down. There is like a dark purple in there, and as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, that one there, it can go from 0 to 60 pretty quickly. So you'll see I've used some self-restraint so that this didn't become too dark and dramatic. I didn't want that for the office. In terms of the concealer that I'm wearing today, this one was the Sephora Best Skin or Better Skin, or I can't even remember what it's called, the Sephora one, the newest one that they have released. So that one is in there. I'm going to be doing a video at some point ranking all of the concealers, but I'm testing them out day by day right now, doing it in the same style that I did with my neutral palettes, if you saw that, where I have established some categories and I'm going to give them a score, this time out of 5 instead of out of 10. I'm going to give them a score out of 5 and then figure out a mathematical ranking for them rather than just what I think is my favorite. Already one of them has surprised me, so we shall see. I think I've done 5 days of concealer so far, so I've still got another 9 to go. So look for that video towards the end of the month. Let me tell you, if you can find these KVD blushes, grab them. Grab them with both hands and run. I have long extolled their virtues. They are fantastic and they last beautifully all day. The lip glaze from Kaleidos, that's what I'm applying right now. This one is in the shade, oh gosh, I wrote it down and now I can't find it because I'm panicking. Echo Valley, that is the name of it. I love these liquid lipsticks. They have like a moussey kind of texture. They last really well. Not exactly transfer proof, but pretty darn close. But they keep that like hydrating feel on the lips regardless of how long you've worn them. Highly, highly recommend them. The quad, I did make some notes on this, basically just saying that the mattes layered really well with each other. They were very blendable, very buildable. And the shimmers did last fairly well throughout the day, but there was a little bit of micro glitter transfer down onto my cheeks. Nothing to write home about, nothing that would prevent me from reaching from that palette again, but just wanted to make note of that. So that was day 2, and now we are on to day 3. So we're going to be using the Supreme Nudes Quickie palette, if only because I kind of rediscovered this one when I did my recent declutter, and I had not necessarily forgotten that I had it, but just had not used it since I think the very first time I used it, so I figured this would be a good time to bust it out. And this was a day where I had some client meetings scheduled. So I had a client meeting in the morning and then a consultation with a potential client in the afternoon. And I also had another Zoom meeting as well. And I knew that my client and the person I was having the consultation with are both older. And so I thought I would go very toned down, a little bit more neutral with my makeup. Again, I don't know that anybody really cares that much, but I like to keep it in mind. So I didn't have any court this week, but you'll see on days when I go to court that my makeup looks pretty much like what it looks like for this day. I keep it like pretty neutral, pretty soft. I don't want any bold colors. I don't want a bright lipstick or anything like that. I just want to look pulled together and professional, but nothing too over the top. So this was the day where I tried something different for me. So this was just lining my eyes with an eyeshadow. This brush that I have here is so good for this kind of detail work. This one is from Quo Beauty, which is a Canadian brand sold through Shoppers Drug Mart. I think it's actually just called the Winged Liner Brush, but it's kind of like a scoop-shaped cut to the bristles, and it just makes it so easy to get really precise placement. But, I mean, this isn't a very tricky process or application technique, but it just softens things up a little bit, and it's not something that I typically do, but I would suggest if you like the look of winged liner, but like liquid liner intimidates you or you find it to be a bit too harsh, try something like this. Like, this isn't even a particularly dark eyeshadow. You could do it with black, but I just did it with sort of a mid-tone brown. And I thought it was really, really pretty, and it held up throughout the day. I didn't think that it would, but it did. So I was really pleased with that. You'll see that I reach for my Flexitarian highlighter quite frequently for the inner corner. I find that it has really great lasting power there. And then for blush on this day, I went for the Bare Mineral Blonzer. Is that what they call it? Blonzer? I really hate that word, truly, but they are beautiful blushes. I used to have Kiss of Copper, and that one was too harsh for my skin tone, but this one, Kiss of Pink, I think it's called, is just perfect. Just adds that, like, just coming from inside out of the cold kind of look. In terms of the longevity of the items that I wore today, you'll see that I had put that ColourPop shadow in Frog. I didn't think, oh, my daughter had just walked into the camera and bounced it around. Anyways, I didn't think that Frog was going to last as well as it did during the day because it is getting very dried out because it's just so old. But it lasted really well throughout the day. Some transfer down onto my cheeks, but again, nothing to write home about. And the mattes from the Artist Couture palette, no issues with it. I mean, granted, I wore two, but I was impressed that the liner that I created lasted as well as it did. The concealer that I'm wearing today is from Lawless, the Conceal the Deal concealer, and spoiler, I don't like it very much. It just does not have the amount of coverage. You can still see a lot of that blue peeking through under my eyes. Not a huge fan of that one for my needs. And now we were on to day 4, which was Friday, and I had no appointments booked that day. I did have dinner plans with friends after work, so I wanted something that would hold up, that I wasn't going to have to sort of recreate the wheel on after leaving the office. So I went for this eyeshadow stick from Vive in the shade Hazelnut, and then just used a Delium Tools brush to buff that out. Again, I haven't sped up the footage, and I just wanted to show that it does take a little while to blend these out, but there is enough time to blend them. So I would rather have to spend some time getting the shadow where I want it and have it be blendable than have it just dry down immediately and then you're stuck with harsh lines. So I really do like these eyeshadow sticks, but if you have any recommendations on eyeshadow sticks that you enjoy that do last all day without creasing, please let me know. I'm always curious, especially if it has a more budget-friendly price point than the Vive one does. So you can see I'm just taking my time. I did add a little bit more towards the outer corner. I just didn't include that in the video, but just to deepen up the shadow on the outer part of my lid. And then I'm going in with this liquid shadow from Hindash. I think they only have one right now. It's called Boy Tears. I would be interested in seeing him release a couple more because they have amazing staying power. Again, they blend really nicely. There's a good amount of time to get them placed where you want, and then they dry down and lock into place, and I didn't have any issues with it throughout the day. I had a little bit of creasing from that eyeshadow pencil, but nothing to write home about. It really wasn't bad at all. So I have not been including my liner and mascara, as you can see. I mean, you've watched the video and you haven't seen it, but I thought that I would include the liner in this one because I did do wings this day. I knew I wasn't meeting anybody, so I wanted to wear a bold lipstick, and I find that wings just pair so beautifully with a bright red lipstick. I do have a video completely dedicated to how I do winged liner on my hooded eyes. I mean, you can watch it if you want. It's much more in-depth than what you're seeing here, but I thought that I would include the steps at any rate so that you could see them. That's the joy of hooded eyes, is that those wings are not straight lines at all, because my eyelid basically just gets all folded up on itself. But this liner is from Clinique. It's called the Pretty Easy liner. That's what it used to be called. They've changed it. It's something pretty, or I don't know. I showed it, but I can't remember. Anyways, it lasted beautifully throughout the day. The only place where it folds and sort of cracks on me is right at the deepest fold of my eye, and when my eyes open, you can't see it. I didn't forget to include footage. I forgot to make sure that I was in frame for it, but the lip liner is from Gerard Cosmetics, and then the lip is one of the Power Matte pigments from NARS. Not amazing staying power, but they're very, very comfortable, and the color is phenomenal, except I can't remember what it is. Oh, there it is. Light My Fire. So glad I take notes. Anyways, there we have my full week of makeup. So if you enjoyed this, please let me know. If you have constructive criticism on how to make it better, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Be a decent human being. Bye!